If you told me to make a list of games that I would be talking about this year when it came to mobile gaming, I don't think Counter-Strike would be at the top of the list or even on the list at all this year. But last week was some major developments with the release of Counter-Strike 2.0. There were some indications that we could be seeing one of the biggest games in history coming to mobile very, very soon. Now, if you guys are veterans of the gaming community, then you don't need me to explain the importance and the relevance of Counter-Strike, as it is one of the most popular games of all time, one of the most impactful games of all time when it comes to esports, and it is still breaking records to this day. But if you guys aren't gaming veterans, or you mainly stick in the mobile side of games, let me quickly explain why Counter-Strike coming to mobile would be one of the biggest developments in mobile gaming history. Now, Counter-Strike Go is the game you've probably heard of from the Counter-Strike franchise, and that game released back in August of 2012. Very similar to GTA, this game is a franchise. There have been multiple games released throughout its history, the first one being all the way back in the year 2000, meaning the Counter-Strike franchise is over 23 years old as of today. Similar to GTA, Counter-Strike have released multiple games over the last 23 years, each one taking a few years to produce, but the last game that they released was back in 2012. So you're thinking, okay, the last game was over 10 years ago. It's probably a smaller community. There's probably not that many players playing, and the graphics are pretty bad. Well, yes to the very last one, but the first two, you would be shocked to learn that last week, the game broke its all-time peak player count of over 1.5 million players being online at a single time. Meanwhile, the graphics, yeah, they're not the best, but people don't play Counter-Strike for the graphics. They play it for the raw mechanics and the raw just feel of the shooter game that the game is able to give players. For a little bit of context, Apex Legends recently broke its peak player count of players being online of around 600,000. So CSGO, a game that is over 10 years old, just broke its peak player count, and it almost tripled that of Apex Legends. And so yeah, the game might be old, but it's definitely not dead. Now, the reason all this news is coming to light regarding Counter-Strike Go coming to mobile is because last week CSGO announced that they're going to be doing an updated version of the game, basically a CSGO 2.0. It is going to be a free to download, free to install, free to play version of CSGO that basically is just a refresh of everything. It's kind of like how Fortnite chapters work. Whenever they do a Fortnite chapter every few years, they do a basic rework of mechanics. They make changes to the graphics and the maps. They basically just do a small rework of the game that allows the game to feel fresh. And so CSGO receiving this refresh 11 years into the game is massive because it hasn't received an update like this in its entirety of the game. And when Valve announced CSGO 2.0 coming out, they also allowed some players to get early access to the limited release, kind of how mobile games do. You know, they announce the mobile game and then they let people in some regions play the game while others have to wait. This was kind of similar, other than the fact that it was an invite-only test session. But as you guys know, when people get their hands on early access builds of games, they like to do a little bit of digging in the files and in the code to see what they can find. And one user on Twitter was able to find some very interesting lines of code that refer back to mobile. The user Aquarius on Twitter tweeted out, since Source 2 supports iOS and Android, Counter-Strike 2 mobile might actually be a real thing, with these pictures right here having some indications that mobile might be a platform that CSGO 2 is going to be developed for. Now, unfortunately, this news isn't all rainbows and sunshine, as someone replied to this Twitter thread stating that these strings of mobile text and basically the bits of information that are already in Counter-Strike 2.0 files, these exact strings are already present in the Dota Underworlds files, which, if you guys don't know, Dota 2 is literally the largest esports game ever created, with prize pools over $30 million for their yearly tournament. They released a auto battler back in 2020, basically like a teamfight tactics kind of game for mobile in 2020. Valve was the publisher of this game, and so very easily they could have just slipped this string and this text and this code into the Counter-Strike 2 as kind of like a precursor, or just maybe someone accidentally left this text over from Dota Underworlds. But there is a little bit of light at the end of this tunnel for this news, because if anything, it shows that Valve has already produced a game back in 2020, a pretty successful game from what I'm able to tell. And so a lot of game publishers, whenever they first create a mobile game, it kind of sucks. So the fact that Valve already has some experience under the belt in the mobile gaming ecosystem and creating mobile games, I think that's honestly better than Counter-Strike trying to be their first game they've ever brought to mobile. Now, although we only have a few lines of code at the moment to go off of, I think it is incredibly likely that csgo 2.0 is going to be coming to mobile for a few reasons. Now, I'm just going to go ahead and say it. The main reason csgo 2.0 is probably coming to mobile is money. Based off of other popular and successful mobile games over the last few years, if Valve were able to successfully port an optimized, well-made version of csgo 2.0 to mobile, well, then they could be looking at anywhere in the ballpark from $30 to $50 million a month in revenue. Call of Duty Mobile, a game that is 4 years old but still popular, brings in an estimated $30 to $35 million per month. And during Fortnite's heyday, during its peak player count and obsession, the game on mobile was able to generate over $50 million a month in revenue. And so with the way that Counter-Strike works and its in-game item system works, I could definitely see the game bringing in over $50 million a month in revenue. And because developing mobile games, once they get the game up and running, it typically requires a smaller development team compared to that of a PC or console game. Most of this money that they would be generating would be straight profit that would allow Valve to reinvest in their community. As if you guys don't know, Counter-Strike has one of the most impressive esports scenes of any game in the world. They consistently run multiple big tournaments throughout the years with massive prize pools of over $1 million. There are esports teams that have been around for decades now competing in Counter-Strike. And so with all this new generated revenue from mobile, they could just reinvest it back into the main platform or into the mobile platform with mobile exclusive tournaments and really use the mobile platform to make something even bigger of the game. But if you're PC players watching this game, you're thinking to yourself, there's no way that people on mobile actually want to play a tactical 5v5 shooter. Well, there is where you are wrong, because there have been pretty much clones, copycats, reskins of CSGO that have already made their way to mobile over the last few years. One of the most popular ones being Critical Ops. This game was able to develop a pretty dedicated fan base over the last few years, even though the development team is insanely small and the support for the game's esports and content is pretty lackluster. There's already existing proof that within the mobile gaming ecosystem, players want to play a tactical 5v5 shooter. It is also confirmed that Riot is going to be bringing the incredibly popular 5v5 tactical shooter Valorant over to mobile within the next year or so. And really, if Valorant is the only new 5v5 shooter to be on mobile, it creates pretty much a monopoly within this category of mobile gaming. And so Valve, realizing the potential of mobile gaming, how they'd be able to use it to not only generate new revenue for the game, but also bring in tens of millions of new fans to an already incredibly popular franchise. I think Counter-Strike 2 coming to mobile is way more likely than you might actually think. And so once again, well, at the moment, we only have a few bits and pieces of information to go off of based off the trajectory of mobile gaming and how many new game publishers have been developing games and porting over these existing AAA games and massive franchises to mobile. It would not shock me at all for us to get an announcement within the next few months or so that confirms that Valve is working on porting CSGO 2.0 to mobile. As always, if there are any more updates within this story and within Counter-Strike being released on mobile, I will of course update you all here on this channel. So make sure you guys are subscribed so that you don't miss any information regarding mobile gaming. With that being said, I'm incredibly hyped for the potential of Counter-Strike 2 to come to mobile, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Deuces.